Amanda Southworth is a 16-year-old student, developer, and entrepreneur, originally from California, and she's here to visit us today in order to contribute to the content of one of our new school risk management offerings, bullying and liability. Amanda, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So as you said, I'm 16 years old. I live in California, and I also run a nonprofit software development company called Astrolabs. And essentially what we do is we make software for people that need it the most but get it the least.
That's a great line.
Thank you.
Need it the most, but get it the least.
Very simple and to the point.
All right, and that's your mission statement too, right?
Indeed.
Okay. You've spoken quite a few times publicly about your struggles with mental health and with bullying. Will you share with our viewers just a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, of course. So always throughout my life I've had different issues just as a result of the environment I was in. But when I moved to a new town, I got into a new middle school, and it was just a completely different culture than what I was used to. It was definitely a culture shock. It was like I was an alien landing from a different planet into a very hostile world. So for me, I didn't know any of the customs or the traditions of this new place. I was missing home quite a bit. And so for me to make that transition was a little bit rocky, and also kids aren't the nicest, and kids there were very rude to me, and I already had a little bit of anxiety from a previous event before this, so when I moved, it really started to reveal itself. And then the more I stayed in this area and the more I talked to these kids, the more depressed I got and the more isolated I felt. It just was not a very fun experience. And for me, it was really hard to deal with because I was taken from the home that I lived in for many years that I loved, and I was dropped with all these people that I hated. And so for me to make that adjustment was really hard on my own mental health. And then I started working really hard. I was taking hard classes. I really pushed myself to the limit that I could. And so for me, that was naturally a huge shock, and it definitely negatively impacted my health.
Okay. Your physical health, your mental health, your well-being?
Both of them. I mean, when I was mentally ill, I not only engaged in mentally destructive behaviors, but I engaged in physically destructive behaviors, which I think is definitely a side effect of mental illness and bullying that we don't talk about enough, is not only the physical scars that it can leave, but also the mental scars and how it's going to impact you throughout the rest of your life.
Right. Because it's not a one and done.
It's not, no.
Okay. How do you define bullying?
I define bullying as dehumanization, or anything that's really dehumanizing to somebody. It doesn't have to be a simple act of, shoving somebody into a locker, but it could be a hate comment, spreading a rumor that you know is not true, just doing something to make somebody else feel inferior because you want them to.
Okay. Where has bullying occurred for you outside of school, or has it?
It's definitely occurred, for me, it was mostly inside of school.
Okay.
As a result of my work, I get a lot of online bullying, and I get a lot of, online harassment, which is never fun. But for me, mostly the bullying resulted in just isolation, a lot of rude comments being made towards me, generally being left out and kind of being, the black sheep of the family. So that was how it resulted for me. But for other people, it's, especially within my own friend group at the time, it was more about, shoving and about physical attacks. And especially in the school district where I was, that was a huge issue. So it not only were these, gaslighting technique, but there were also these physical attributes to it.